I'm Ed Adams, and this is the Weekly Genealogy Toolkit, the podcast that helps new genealogists get the most out of their research time and avoid the most common pitfalls. I think I've talked before about the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's the concept usually depicted with a graph that shows confidence on the y-axis and wisdom on the x-axis graphed over time. On the left side of the graph, you see the line go from 0 confidence and 0 wisdom, and it rises rapidly to an almost peak level of confidence while still at a very low level of wisdom. Then, if you continue in whatever field it is that the graph is depicting, you have this cliff-like drop off the confidence as you gain more wisdom. I think anyone who has truly put in the effort to become competent or even expert at something has experienced this effect. As you first get into something, you know full well that you're ignorant of the field, so you approach it with a humility appropriate for a beginner. But once you demonstrate that you're able to do what it is you're trying to learn with a decent degree of skill, your confidence shoots up, and you quickly start to see yourself as an expert. But you're really only approaching the point where you have enough knowledge and experience to be able to fully grasp the endeavor and either end up meeting a real expert, or you start to experience edge cases within your field that show you just how little wisdom you actually have on the topic. It's not a fun experience to go through, but I think it's part of being human. Likewise, in genealogy, if you catch the bug and really start working on your family history with a sense of seriousness, you very quickly get to this point where you start to see yourself as an expert at it, or at least at your corner of it. But like we've discussed, inevitably we hit that speed bump somewhere along the way that causes us to look back at our previous work and think that perhaps there's more we need to learn. Once you start learning those deeper concepts and skills, then the full depth of genealogy becomes apparent, and you go back to feeling very much like a beginner. That's okay, welcome to the team. Thankfully, pretty much everyone in the community has experienced the same thing, and a lot of people have put together really great resources to help you work your way into true competence. So let's talk about continuing education in genealogy and how to get to your peak as a genealogist and stay there. There are really 3 domains of continuing education as I see it. You might call it the learn by doing domain, the institutional domain, and the self-development domain. I think any good continuing education plan will probably, over time, include elements from all 3. In the learn by doing domain, once you've identified a gap in your swing, or a weak area in your skills as a researcher, for those of you not into sports metaphors, rather than shying away from that weak area, just dive right in and force yourself to get better by doing it. Some people are intimidated by tax records, or they don't understand the language in property records, so they just don't use them that much. If that's you, then go back and look at some of those parts of your tree where you're missing information that might be filled in by tax or land records. Then you just dive right in head first. You'll get confused and frustrated, but a good strategy is to keep a notebook next to you as you research. Every time you have a question about something, write that question down in your notebook, but keep working on your research. Don't try to answer that question right away. Do as much of the research as you can at your current skill level, and you'll likely accumulate a dozen or more questions. What does lease and release mean? Why does this 18th century tax record have a single woman in it? How can you even use a tax list to answer anything useful? Once you've exhausted your ability to figure it out as you go, refer to your notebook and all those questions. Then, take a break from working on your family tree and try to answer all of those questions. Oftentimes it's as simple as typing these questions into the Google search bar. You're not the first person to have those questions, and there's a Reddit post or a blog or a YouTube video out there somewhere with your answers, I'd be willing to bet. The learning by doing domain is great because I think it's the most natural way to learn. The lessons you learn this way usually stick pretty well. The downside is that it's not really all that efficient, and you'll usually be left with several gaps because sometimes you may not understand enough to effectively articulate the right question. If you can't ask the right question, then you're not going to get the answer that will help you understand. It does really help build your skills as someone who can figure it out, though, and I think that being able to figure things out on your own is a really underappreciated skill. And it's not generally something you're born with. Like any muscle, it only works if you exercise it. Moving on to the institutional domain. This is where you expand your expertise by going to the experts in a formal learning environment. There are several institutions that have great genealogy programs, and I'll highlight as many as I can, but I have no doubt that there are quality programs out there that I'm not going to talk about. I'll try and include links to each of the programs in the episode description if any of them sound like something that you'd be interested in. When looking at degree-producing programs here in the United States, The only place that I'm aware of is BYU, which offers a BA in family history. I know next to nothing about the program, but as someone who has academically advised college students before, if you want to pursue a second degree and you've got the time and the money, I'd say go for it. As a primary degree as a young adult, I would see this as incredibly limiting. It might be wiser to pursue a BA in history and then work on a genealogical education at one of the other institutions that I'll mention. There are other universities that provide non-degree producing courses or programs in genealogy. Boston University has been putting together a pretty robust genealogical offering for several years now. Everything is done online, so no need to relocate. They have 3 courses, with one offering a graduate certificate. Although, keep in mind that having a graduate certificate in genealogical research does not make you a certified genealogist. That's a different thing entirely. I took the genealogical principle courses a while back, and maybe I should have jumped straight into the certificate course. I still learned some good stuff, and I enjoyed the opportunity to interact with other students and the teaching assistants on their discussion board system. Their courses are pretty fast-paced, tackling quite a bit of stuff each week. Don't expect to have anything else going on in your life while doing one of their courses. There are 2 other universities, the University of Strathclyde in Scotland and the University of New England in Australia, that both offer a variety of coursework in genealogy. Programs at both schools are substantial. Think of them as master's programs that will likely take you from 18 months to 2 years to complete. They are substantial investments in time and money. Thankfully, colleges and universities don't have a monopoly on formal genealogical education, though. There are a number of institutes that offer very high-quality education that can be much more customizable than a university program, and while not cheap, can be a more affordable option for people who are serious about expanding their knowledge. There are more institutes than I can go over, but I'll include links to them in the description. The 2 main institutes that you'll usually hear about once you start looking at development within the institutional domain are GRIP and SLIG. They are funny-sounding names, but both are, of course, acronyms. GRIP, or the Genealogical Research Institute of Pittsburgh, which is part of the National Genealogical Society, offers 9 virtual courses and 8 in-person courses across the year. They provide week-long courses, and their offerings vary from year to year based on the experts that they're able to coordinate for the courses. But each course is, in essence, a deep dive into a specific genealogical topic or problem set. For example, for 2025, they're offering in-person courses in things like advanced German research or coal industry research. And they're offering virtual classes in things like Chinese American genealogy and military research. SLIG, or the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy, provides virtual cohorts a few times each year with a varying selection of courses. Their cohorts are focused, though, with their fall cohort focusing on broad genealogical topics. Their winter course is targeted on high, intermediate to advanced learners. And the spring cohort is focused on professional development for people working in the genealogical field already. Think business and marketing tips, project management, that kind of thing. Despite the focus area, you can still find general genealogical topics in each of them. I'd encourage you to check out their website where you can see their course offering for each cohort. Like I said, there are others as well, and they even have cool names like Tiger. But just check out the links in the episode description and have a look at all of them. Maybe you'll find one that seems right for you. The institutional domain isn't the right place for everyone, depending on where you are in life. They all require significant investments of time, and while they vary widely in cost, none of them are cheap. Thankfully, this is where the self-development domain really shines. It fits neatly into whatever spare time you have, and they're mostly pretty affordable. I think my favorite resource for self-development has to be the Legacy Family Tree webinars. I think it's something like $40 for the year and gives you access to live and pre-recorded classes, usually about an hour to an hour and a half long. They've got over 2,300 webinars in their library, so the chances that you can't find something to learn are pretty slim. The training level runs anywhere from true beginner to advanced, so it's a great resource that can meet you where you are. It keeps track of the webinars that you've watched, and you can bookmark ones that you want to watch, and it keeps them all organized together, so you can kind of put together your own curriculum and go through it at your own speed. YouTube, of course, is a great place to learn, but the quality varies, and sometimes there can be so much just stuff out there that it can be hard to cobble together a good series of videos that will really develop your skills. It can be done, though, and there's some really good genealogy content there. It just takes some time to curate it. Family Search provides all of their recorded sessions for the past several years of Roots Tech. As of this recording, they have classes all the way back to 2019, but I'd imagine as their content library grows, they may start paring that down eventually. There's some really excellent stuff there, and again, you can create multiple custom playlists and build a sort of curriculum for yourself to work through. It also has the benefit of familiarizing you with a lot of the main characters that you'll see at Roots Tech this year, so you'll get a sense of whose sessions you might want to attend live and have the chance to ask questions directly. As you pry yourself from the internet, there are some good opportunities for self-development in the pages of physical books. Yes, they still exist. I recently worked my way through the Family Tree Guide to DNA testing and genetic genealogy, and while most of it is pretty intro level, I still learned quite a bit. Most physical bookstores won't have very much in terms of genealogy, so you'll probably have to look online, but you can have a good bit of luck if you have a library card. Libraries are like congregating spots for genealogists, and many tend to have entire rooms dedicated to genealogical sources. These are great places to grow your knowledge and skills, as they have both books about how to do genealogy, as well as all sorts of genealogical resources like indexes, abstract collections, and other authored works. You may not be interested in the specific resources they have, but just spending time looking through what's available will drastically grow your understanding of what is generally available out there and how to work through various different types of sources that you may not be all that familiar with right now. I could probably go on some more about self-development. We didn't even talk about other podcasts, but maybe we can do that another day. The bottom line is don't plateau, and for heaven's sake, please don't be that person who just hangs out at the peak of ignorance, never understanding how little you actually know. Very few people ever reach true expertise in genealogy, so don't stress out about it, and just enjoy the process of learning more than you know now. If you've got a good resource for genealogical education that I didn't mention, please hit me up on Twitter @the_WGTpod or over on Facebook. I haven't been great about maintaining my socials lately, but hey, life and genealogy are both more important. But I'll put a post up on each platform and add your educational resources as comments to those. Regardless, I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.